Welcome, Jeffrey Paul from Wigs for Kids, and I have a wonderful guest to help you raise your kids with the it factor. But let me ask you a question first. Do your children have the it factor, the IT? Well, Janet Vinciguerra is here. She's going to be with us on June 11th at Crocker Park from 9 to 4 with all of the incredible speakers throughout the country that are coming in to help us raise our kids to be inspired, to be empowered. And you'll see our kids there as well that are from Wigs for Kids that have gone through hair loss and now have been replaced with a beautiful head of hair. So let me welcome Janet. Janet, it's good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Jeffrey.
What is the it factor for parents to recognize whether their kids have it or don't have it?
You know, when you meet somebody, you notice after just a couple of moments, you notice, that guy's got it. He's got it together. He knows what he's doing. He's got great character. He's competent. He's compassionate. He's the kind of kid I would like to hang around with my kids.
That's
and you know what? If you have it, you have it. And if you don't, you got to do something to bring it up, bring it around.
And that's what your book, that's what your courses, that's what your training is all about. And you're going to kind of unfold that to the audience when we get there. Exactly. Let's take apart, because we don't want to give them everything. We want them to come on June 11th to Crocker Park. But give us a point. You talked about pain point as a parent. So what are the pain points that you've recognized in your consulting and your 30 years of teaching? What's there? You
know, I see in parents all the time, they're frustrated with the kids with just basic directions, just following directions like, could you guys get in the car? Could you get in the car? Could you get in the car? I mean, we repeat over and over, and we're looking for them to take on that ability to follow directions, to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I saw it in the classroom with teachers. I'd hear them in the teacher's lounge, how do I get these kids to care? Or these kids have got a bit of entitlement to them. So what do we do about that? Because there are no perfect parents, there are no perfect kids. And so we have to be intentional. How do we do that?
And it's kind of expanding, because once you are raising your kids and then they go off to school, you got a whole other dynamic at that point. Let's talk about that voice inside their head, that really you coach them when they're young enough. What about that voice?
You know, ultimately, that is the thing that I've heard parents say time and again. When I'm not around, I want them to do the right thing, even when I'm not around. And so ultimately, to give them that wise voice within to make good choices, even when no one's watching. What I did was I took a lot of the things from what I was doing in the classroom. In a course of 30 years, the last 15 years, I began intentionally teaching good character in the classroom. Just like you and I had Jiminy Cricket, we could hear he was the good conscience, right? So that's the goal for parents. And my job is to help parents to become parent coaches. You know, where you're not being critical, but you see that something's not working, so we're going to be very intentional about it. And so I have developed over the years, I have taken what was working in the classroom, and now I'm using it in, I call it the living room, okay? Classroom, the living room, what's working there. I have experience with 2 adult children and 2 gorgeous, beautiful grandchildren.
I'll agree with that.
they inspire me to do what I'm doing.
You know my mom, of course, because she's your mother's sister and we're cousins. But in turn, I want to share a little story. I don't think I've ever shared this with you that really plays into your role of that voice. And I love you using Jimmy Cricket, although you younger people may not remember who he is. But we were going on our senior sleep out. And, that was not to go have a, cuddly time in a sleeping bag. It was a crazy time for, seniors. And so I had all the things that we had to party with in my car, and I brought a lot of the guys with us. And my best friend, Bob, gives me an envelope. He says, your mom gave me this. And I go, my mom gave you this? Yeah, she said, read it before you do anything tonight. So I open it up and she says, Jeffrey, you are my incredible young son who I love dearly. I know you would never do anything that would not honor our family and our relationship. And it froze me, and it stopped my evening from getting crazier than crazy because of that voice. She couldn't have had that effect with me unless there was a lot of everyday issues. You have a whole reward system, and I'm looking at that little bottle I want you to share with about the 1 a day. So give us a little tip on what you do with these.
When I say being intentional, the word a day vitamin, there's 50 vitamins within here, and every one of them is a quality that we would love in our children. Respectful, responsible, kind, caring, trustworthy. And we want them to take that word, trustworthy, and we say, what does that look like? What does that sound like? And what does it feel like? It's like 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, right? You take a little vitamin a day, you talk about it together, but then the goal is for them to go throughout the course of the day, and we're talking little guys, and you can adjust it to teens as well, But now their job is, in the course of the day, they're supposed to try to recognize, oh, that was very trustworthy. And, you know, to a little think it or even say it to themselves or out loud. I had a woman say to Isaac, wearing his little jacket at age 4 years old, he was wearing his little construction hat and worker man jacket. And she said, my, you look like a hard worker. He goes, yes, I am diligent. And she was 4 and she was like, diligent? Which just brings to point, our children can learn any word. You know, they can learn Tyrannosaurus Rex. They can figure the word conscientious. Conscientious. How many times did I receive student papers that they would scribble out the word and all you had to do was erase it and write it again, right? So we want them to be conscientious at the end of the day. If they remember what the word is, what it looks like, sounds like, you have a little discussion at dinner time, bedtime, then they get to take that vitamin and it goes on the board. And at the end of time, that's going to be used, that entire board of qualities that we value in young leaders and young people. We're going to turn that into the final destination is to give children and families what I call a family touchstone, which is sort of like a mission statement. It's who we are as a family. You know, you mentioned Jiminy Cricket. We have this little guy, Benjamin Moose. He is the wise voice within to make good choices. He's the guy who's whispered in their ear. And they will have that when they have it from you, the parent. I'm a parent coach to help you become a parent coach to a child coach for your children. I can't tell you the difference it made in my classroom. It really was a big difference from my first 15 years to the last 15.
You know, it's interesting. You've written a book, and the book is obviously going to be presented at the event, and you know, you're going to be signing it for those that want to get that book. But more than the book, you have a system of parenting, and you have not only for parenting, because we go to our grandparents, you know, camp and every year, and you also are speaking to the grandparents that can have such an impact and legacy to the grandchildren. Absolutely. And actually support the parent. You know, as a teacher, I heard you say this 1,000 times over your 30 years. If we only had more support at home from the parents, right? Well, imagine the same thing, building character, not just mathematics and spelling words, but really being able to help your children from the inside out in a fun way that you've created all the elements. You've created the board, you've created the reward system, you've created the vitamin, you know, and the imagery. So it's all packaged, but you take them also through the coaching process. And that's what we're going to talk about, I'm sure, on June 11th at the Crocker Park for the Wigs for Kids Inspire Day. So one last point of advice to the parents that are out there going, I can't handle it anymore.
That's why I started off with calling this the it factor, because parents want it, teachers need it, employers need it, and the world demands it. So how do we intentionally give that to our children? We start off with 3. We teach them through this, we teach them good character. It becomes a topic that we notice, and the more we notice it and recognize it, the more we get of it. They want to please us. When our little guys get in the car and I say, guys, get in the car, I want them to get in the car on the first time, they get in that car, I recognize it. You know what, we're driving, I'm going, you know what, you guys, I am so impressed. I asked you the first time, and that's what you did. That's a great leader, and do you know how many people are watching you? You are leaders of the little guys. So they begin to puff up a bit, you know, like, yeah, it feels good to be responsible. Between this being teaching good character, the second one is teaching them to be competent, good at things. And I'll be teaching more on Saturday, the 11th, on how we're trying to give them cash, K-A-S-H. K is knowledge, A is attitude, S is skills, and H is habits. So we give them all of those. And the third one we want to give them is compassion. When I did parent interviews, that's what they wanted, to know that their kids were kind, that they were nice to other people. I think that matters to all parents. So we have a thing called the give, save, spend jars. You give a little, you save a little, you spend a little. Okay? That's also on June 11th. Those 3 are the beginning, but then it goes through, there's actually 8 essentials till you get to the family touchstone. At the end of time, your child has that wise voice within to make good choices because you gave it to him. And how many times I say to myself, I know my mom would say this. I heard my mom's voice. I had one of my students say, Senora, I taught Spanish. He said, Senora, sometimes I hear your voice in my head. And I'm like, great, that's a good thing. So you know, yeah, it's sustainable. We can do this. It's doable, but we have to be intentional.
I think the undergirding success to your program is you're building self-esteem. The world is crushing self-esteem. We hear it every day, both in adults, but specifically in children. With the way that you've created the program and giving the parents the tools and the implication and coaching, you help create self-esteem. Self-esteem builds upon itself and strengthens the entire body of impact. And obviously they're going to be with us with Wigs for Kids, and that's what we do every day. When a child loses their hair, they've lost a lot more than just hair. They've lost their esteem, they've lost their character, they've lost a lot. As we give back that hair, we watch the faces of these children transform. And having that re-encouragement of the parent and everything else is going to be a major program. I want you to remember, this is all about your children having the it factor. And guess what? I think the benefit is you're going to get the it factor as well in the process.
We all need the it factor.
Absolutely.
And if I could just tell you, parents, that you don't have to do this alone. I've had people say to me, could I just take you home in my pocket? I just need to take you home. So in the course of time, that's exactly what I've done. Between the books, then I have an activity book that has pages in it. There's 150 pages of activities that you can do with your family that are interactive and they're fun and they're meaningful. And those can all happen at my website, which is howcanihelpmykid.com. So if you go there, you've got access to books, activities. I will speak at anyone's event, and I'm also doing a parent coach experience, which is going to be something where you're interactive with a community of people as well as myself. That will be available as of July 1st.
Well, we are excited for you to visit with us and join us on a whole day from 9 to 4 at Crocker Park in Westlake. Wonderful facility if you're shoppers, but we're going to have fashion shows, we're going to have the speakers, we're going to have our kids that have gone through the transformations. Maybe we'll even have some of these kids that have gone through the it factor. And we have a whole marketplace of jewelers and clothiers and all kinds of exciting things. It's an all-day event. And for those that are really exercise-minded, we've got yoga, we've got cycling, and we've got all kinds of things that are going to really impact your life. Join us on June 11th at 9 through 4 o'clock. It's free. It's a benefit for Wigs for Kids, and we want you to be there with us. Join us. Rain or shine, we'll be at Crocker Park June 11th. At 9 o'clock sharp, and we'll be doing that until 4. So join us and hear more about the it factor and so many more of our speakers that you'll see intros at that point.
I'm speaking at 10 o'clock. If you want more information on the it factor, I'm there.
The commercial girl.
I'll help you.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you again on June 11th.